How were the ancient Gnostics seen and portrayed by other people, and especially the Neoplatonists, as the subject might be connected? Greetings, mortals. Capital day to you all. I'm your host, Simon. Welcome back to the library. So I was doing some research on Wikipedia on the monad, and I stumbled across this excellent article titled Neoplatonism and Gnosticism. I like the content so much as it clarifies some of the Gnostics' worldviews better than anything I've seen. And it is an interesting subject, as Gnostics most likely got their idea of a demiurge from Plato's work. Plotinus was a major Hellenistic philosopher born and raised in Roman Egypt, regarded by modern scholarship as the founder of Neoplatonism. His teacher was the self-taught philosopher Ammonius Saccas, who belonged to the Platonic tradition. Historians of the 19th century invented the term Neoplatonism and applied it to refer to Plotinus and his philosophy, which was vastly influential during late antiquity, the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Much of the biographical information about Plotinus comes from Porphyry's preface to his edition of Plotinus' most notable literary work, the Enneads. In his metaphysical writings, Plotinus described three fundamental principles: the one, the intellect, and the soul. His works have inspired centuries of pagan, Jewish, Christian, Gnostic, and Islamic metaphysicians and mystics, including developing precepts that influence mainstream theological concepts within religion, such as his work on duality of the one in two metaphysical states. Plotinus raises objections to several core tenets of Gnosticism, although some of them might have come from misunderstandings. Plotinus states that he didn't have the opportunity to see the Gnostics explain their teachings in a considerate and philosophical manner. Indeed, it seems most of his conceptions of Gnosticism had come from foreign preachers that he perceived as harboring resentment against his homeland. Nevertheless, the major difference between Plotinus and Gnostics can be summarized as follows. Plotinus felt Gnostics were trying to cut in line what he considered a natural hierarchy of ascension, whereas Gnostics considered that they had to step aside from the material realm in order to start ascending in the first place. Like Aristotle, Plotinus believed the hierarchy to be observable in the celestial bodies, which he considered as conscious beings above the rank of humans. Plotinus thought that the observable universe is the consequence of timeless, divine activity, and therefore eternal, whereas the Gnostics believed the material realm to be the result of the fall of a divine principle called Sophia, from the Greek Sophia meaning wisdom, and her offspring, the demiurge. Because Sophia must have undergone a change when turning her attention away from the divine realm, according to Plotinus, the Gnostics must think that the world was created in time. Plotinus considered that human souls must be new compared to those beings inhabiting the celestial plane, and thus must have been born from the observable cosmos, whereas Gnostics considered that at least a part of the human soul must have come from the celestial plane, either fallen due to ignorance or purposely descended to illuminate the lower plane, and thus the longing to ascend. Consequently, Plotinus implied that such pretensions were arrogant. Plotinus felt, although immediately the ideal existence for a soul experiencing the cosmos was absolutely necessary in order to ascend, whereas Gnostics considered the material realm as merely a distraction. Plotinus considered that no evil entity could possibly arise from the celestial plane, such as the demiurge, as described by some Gnostics, whereas some Gnostics indeed believed the demiurge to be evil. However, some other Gnostics believed it to be simply ignorant, and some others believed it to be good, placing the blame on themselves for depending on it. Plotinus believed that should one accept the Gnostic premises, awaiting death would be enough to free oneself from the material plane, whereas Gnostics thought that death without proper preparation would just lead into reincarnating again, or to lose themselves in the winds of the sensible plane. This in part shows that Plotinus did not interpret Gnostic teachings charitably. Plotinus believed that Gnostics should simply think of evil as a deficiency in wisdom, whereas most Gnostics did so already. This highlights another aspect that Plotinus might have misunderstood, perhaps due to his interactions with a particular Gnostic sect that was not representative of Gnosticism as a whole. Plotinus believed that in order to attain to the path of ascension, one needed precise explanations of what virtue entails, whereas Gnostic believed this kind of knowledge could be attained intuitively from one's eternal connection to the monad. Plotinus argued that trying to establish a relationship with God without celestial intermediaries would be disrespectful to the deities, favored sons of God, whereas Gnostics believed that they too were the sons of God, and that most celestial beings would not take offense. Plotinus, at least in his text against the Gnostics, portrayed God as a separate entity that the human soul needed to go towards, whereas Gnostics believed that in every human soul there was a divine spark of God already. However, Gnostics did not disagree with the Neoplatonist notion of getting closer to the source. Plotinus argued that the good in the material realm is an indication of the goodness of it as a whole, whereas most Gnostics thought it was merely a result of the good nature of God slipping in through the cracks that the demiurge could not cover. Plotinus himself attempts to summarize the difference between Neoplatonism and a certain form of Gnosticism with an analogy. There are two people occupying the identical house, a beautiful house, where one of them censures its construction and its builder, but nevertheless keeps living in it, and the other does not censor him, and says rather that the builder has made it most proficiently, and yet he is waiting for the time to come when he will be released from the house and will no longer require it. It is possible then not to be lovers of the body, and to become pure, and to disdain death, and to know the higher beings and pursue them. So, what do you think? Is Plotinus right, or are the Gnostics? Leave it down in the comment section below.
Thank you for listening. See you next time, mortal. Remember to hit that bell button to stay notified. Subscribe for more Red Pill content. Do give it a like if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share it. If you want to support my work, you can find me on Patreon at Library of Gnosis. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Bitchute at Library of Gnosis. The audio versions of my broadcasts are available on Spotify as a podcast at Library of Gnosis. Music is produced by Coda.